So, first things first, Benjamin, good to see you again.
Thank you, brother. You too.
How have you been?
I've been okay. Yeah, it's nice to be back playing shows and making new music and feel pretty good.
And obviously, there's quite a lot to talk about, I think, since we last spoke.
Yeah.
So first, I want to start with kind of releasing that second album and then that period afterwards. How do you look back on it now after having gone through what you've gone through in the past 2 years?
I guess we last spoke kind of at the start of that campaign, of the second album. I look back on it, I feel like it's quite a foggy time. I think there were some beautiful moments within it, but overall I look back on it as a kind of a messy run-up to a place of surrender in my personal life, which of course translates into the musical. But I think I played some really beautiful shows during that time. I just wasn't really able to decipher much beauty,
What made you realize this? Were there certain events you went to that you kind of forgot about or missed out on, in a sense? Or well, because I'm jumping out a little bit because there's some mention of wasted time on the record. So is that kind of about that period as well?
I think so. Yeah, I think I've always found, even since I was a kid, I found life kind of hard to deal with sometimes, and now being able to see everything in full color and hear everything and just be awake to the waves, whether good or bad, helps me. That perspective helps me see all the times that I just wasn't awake to stuff, and your question, what made me get to that point of kind of acceptance or surrender is just accumulation of damage to myself and to people I love, so and tour's an easy place to numb out, there's all kind of temptations to spread out on a plate all the time, and I overate, and yeah, I think it's a classic thing, it's well documented throughout history. Like, the most dangerous time for artists is when they get home, because when you're on the road and you've got all your team around you and you're like the king of this little world, if you let yourself believe that, which is easy for people to do sometimes, sadly. And then you get home and you're sat by yourself and it's like, wow, like, what is this for? You know what I mean? We go from being kids making music in our room to like traveling all over the world and having all this love like thrown at us, and which is amazing, but it can warp people's minds, and we get distracted from what really counts, which is love and compassion and family and friends and relationships.
How about the music? Did it affect the music you were making, the creativity?
Living in a damaging way, you mean?
Well, yeah, kind of what you mentioned, kind of numbing yourself out a little bit.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it meant I just wasn't bothered about turning up to places or to write, and when I did, it was such a slog and so kind of long and hazy. And I did get many beautiful songs out of that time, but I wasn't clear. I didn't have any clarity, you know what I mean, in my heart or my mind or my body, and I'm no angel now, it's still like a work in progress, but it just, I was distracted from reality, and I think artists can sometimes convince ourselves that we need to live in like mess or pain, physical or spiritual, to be able to create. And for every one artist that makes that amazing song from that place, there's also a million others that die by themselves, and I don't think I was far away from that place. Yeah.
What was the turning point for you then? Was it one thing, or was it more of a gradual thing where just enough is enough? Or?
I think it was we finished the second album touring cycle in Portugal at the end of 2017. It was a beautiful tour. My friend Sivu came on tour with us, and the team was amazing. And then I kind of got home, and that was probably November 2017. And I was just sat in my flat by myself, kind of smashing up my flat, very sad, shouting at people I loved, not being emotionally available for anyone, including myself. Promising myself I was going to make a change in the way I was living and how I was poisoning myself to extreme, but was reminded of how powerless I am by myself, and that my own willpower in those kind of arenas of self-harm, shall we say, is not strong enough, you know, and isn't the thing that's going to fix it. Me just making promises to myself, you know, I'd made 1,000 promises, and it was always a constant thing from when I started touring, even from before I started touring, numbing out. And it was always like, I can do this, I'm going to stop, da, da, da. And never with any fruits, you know. So I don't know if it was one particular thing, but it was I definitely, from what I can remember, that 2 months after finishing touring, the end of 2017, up to New Year's Eve in 2017 into 18, of just isolation and, you know, like self-hatred and pain, basically, and emotional violence inwardly and outwardly. And yeah, that was just, I knew I had to ask for help, you know.
And we don't have to go through the entire road of recovery, but did you write during that whole process of kind of getting your mind right and kind of getting in a healthy...
Do you mean after?
Yeah, but after kind of that turning point and kind of after that I don't know if you could call it an implosion of some kind, but after kind of, and then seeking out help and then starting that process of getting better. In that period, was it just that the focus, kind of getting better, or did you write and did music play a role in that as well?
I think in that initial first month when I was in treatment, so I didn't really write then, but I'd written and recorded the I Am With You EP. So while I was in treatment, I was getting bounces and mixes sent to me. I think I got a guitar while I was there, and I tried to a bit, but it wasn't the right space to do it. You know, like you said, I needed to kind of focus on myself for a minute, which I hadn't done in a while. And but even a lot of the songs on Gratitude, I'd say 80% of the songs on the new album were written in the run up to technically like getting clean, you know. And listening back to them now when I'm playing them live, it's like I was predicting where I was going to get. You know, that wasn't the exact time I'd put everything down, but I was definitely aware that I had to, and I can hear that in the lyric. When I came out of treatment, I think in March 2018, I wrote a song called Look Ma, which was one of the last songs I wrote for the album, and was writing with a lot of new artists and co-writing music and stuff. So. And then we recorded the album, which was funny because it was the first time I'd ever recorded and worked with other producers whilst awake, basically. And it was a really beautiful process. You know, everyone's kind of asked me, like, how was that process of recording the album? It was like the most peaceful, chilled out, calm, you know, kind of serene experience I've ever had in the studio. And since then, it's been good, you know.
Because, well, you alluded to it a little bit already, but that idea that certain creativity can only originate out of certain substance abuses or pain, as you say. Did you worry at all that kind of...
Yeah, of course. I think that was one of my main worries.
Okay.
One of my main worries was, am I going to be able to write songs without drugs in me? Am I going to be able to record and perform in the booth with the headphones on without drugs in me? Am I going to be able to create, be happy, deal with pain that is always going to come, you know? And I'm pleased to say that it's possible, you know what I mean? And I'm in a much, much better space creatively. I feel like I'm a better songwriter, and a better singer, a better performer, and one day at a time, a better human. I'm no angel, you know, progress, not perfection, but it's like I'm doing my thing and trying to, you know, still make mistakes and quicker to learn from them maybe.
So it was in the last track of the album where you say we've got to love ourselves before we can love anybody else. So it's kind of that idea of getting yourself in the right place and then
yeah, trying to. And I don't think I pushed a button and suddenly I loved myself. I'm working on loving myself, you know what I mean? I'm not perfect, and this is all new to me, you know what I mean? Just with 15, 16 months up, that's nothing compared to how long I was like ill for, you know? So I'm working on it. It's funny you bring that up actually, because we were in the 2 weeks in between the UK tour that we've just done and this tour starting in Europe. I was in the studio and we've got this song that we're working on, and it's a similar lyric to that, you know, the lyric is... The lyric was, I owe you forever, now I can love myself. And now I changed it to, I owe you forever, now I can see myself. As I was singing Love Myself, I was like, this is not true. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fine. I don't want people to see us and be like, oh my God. But I like myself more, you know what I mean? Of course, but do I like love myself? No.
Like you say, for that, and I suppose that's true for everyone. It's kind of a work in progress.
Totally, man. You know what I mean? I don't think I can flick a switch and suddenly go, I'm amazing. I'm this like spiritual being and everything is blessed. You know, because it's not true. You know, and that song "Look Ma" was the first song I wrote ever, clean. There's a lyric in that. Look Ma, the wind stopped blowing, and I can see that means nothing. There's more to a storm. You know, just because like one facet of something is put down and good, you know, it's not like everything is suddenly. And I think if I expect that of myself, then I'm going to hurt myself, because it's impossible to be, you know what I mean, like a beautiful sunset all the time.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up to fail in a sense.
Totally.
If you're doing that. Yeah, at least that's what I think. But one thing I find interesting then with what you said as well, that you kind of could predict where, and talk to you now, I can definitely see that you could kind of predict where you were heading, because you're already making amends in a lot of those songs. You're kind of saying, hey, sorry. And so what was that process for you to kind of looking outwards and looking at the people around you and kind of how the past years affected them?
It's funny you use the word amends, man. Like, it was sad, you know what I mean? I wrote a lot of the songs on gratitude in a studio room in Brixton that I was renting, that was like maybe a quarter of the size of this room. And I remember one song in particular that I wrote with my friend Harry, a producer called Lazy H, a song called The Mess We Make. We both like cried on that day. I think that was the last song we wrote together. We'd written a lot up to that, and we're still good friends and we still create. But it was just like, that song was originally about songwriting. It's a beautiful sunny summer's Sunday day outside, and we're in here writing songs about the chaos that we can cause being artists and never being at home and traveling around so much and losing perspective on important things. So the process of writing that stuff and kind of observing what was about to happen basically was really intense and really foggy, but somehow, and I don't believe it's like my doing, but somehow we got some really beautiful, honest songs out of that space that so far, starting touring again, have seemed to connect with some people, and that's all we can hope for, you know.
And for you yourself then, when you play these songs now then, because it's almost, maybe I'm seeing this completely wrong, but it's a different you that wrote these songs. So how do you, what do these songs make you feel when you play them or when you hear them again and kind of have to delve in that mindset of, or is it not that attached in a sense?
No, I'm really attached to them, and yeah, I do get really in my own head when I'm performing, and I think the new songs make me feel thankful and grateful and appreciative of how lucky I am and the beauty that has been revealed to me for the first time ever, basically. And you know, I don't think I'm anything special or like a giver of great wisdom or any of this kind of stuff, you know, but I know from experience and from touring over the past 8 years that some of my songs to some people like really mean the world. You know, when people say, I don't want to say specific cases, but when people have been through unimaginable hardship and my song, they say, oh, your song got me through, or the lyrics are tattooed on them, or they you know, they bring their kid to a show or whatever it is. And that's to me, that's success, you know what I mean? Whether that's one person or a million people, like, can we as journalists or creative people or doctors or scientists or teachers or anything that anyone does that they love doing, can we leave a mark after we leave the planet, you know what I mean? That's like a huge blessing if we can do that. And I think even more simply than that and more beautifully, like, can we, with whatever anyone does, can we be content and happy and like give an energy of love out where possible and be able to receive it?
Finally, then, because you mentioned kind of how you felt about in previous interviews, you mentioned about how you felt about the music industry at certain stages in this process. So it has gone. You mentioned success just now, and it has gone through this process and kind of this whole journey that you've gone through in the last couple of years. Has that altered the way you view your role as a musician or kind of the music industry that you operate in?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's easy for everyone in music, and especially in the social media age, for artists and labels to always be like looking at stats or looking at venue size or looking at stream numbers or sales or this kind of thing as success. And we live in an age of addiction, you know, we can get addicted to that, you know what I mean? We're always more, you know, like, and the tricks we can play on ourselves and the kind of fake masks that we can put up on social media, you know, like whenever I see like, you know, an Instagram post of someone signing their first record deal and there's champagne on the table and it's like, everyone's, yeah, like, woo, you know, and I'm like, and maybe it's easy for me to say in hindsight, but it kind of scares me, you know what I mean? Because it's like, what is success? And like we just said, I think it's being content and happy and grateful, focusing on what we have rather than what we don't have, you know, and but it's easier said than done, man. And I fall into traps as well, you know. Sometimes I open up Instagram and I feel shit, you know what I mean? What can I say? Like, I think everyone's in that boat, and you know, I'm no angel with that stuff, but it's just something I'm observing. But also, and again, I think it was a fate thing or a luck thing or a faith thing or a spirit thing, whatever. But my relationship with Dirty Hit is, I'm so lucky to have that, you know, because they're such great people and they let me be free creatively within reason, you know what I mean? They don't just leave me to do my own thing and not care. But I meet so many artists who hate their record label, or hate their manager, or hate their publisher, feel trapped, have a terrible deal, were exploited by a big check when they were 18 years old and are now 30 years old and sitting there going like, well, where, you know what I mean, where's the bread? And so I'm very lucky. I think it's hard for me to really have a true perspective on like the business side of the music industry when I've been so lucky to land with probably the best, one of the best and most artist friendly and development savvy, independent, equal, sharing, compassionate, deeply talented labels that's out there, you know.
So, and this might sound a bit silly, almost, but can I assume that you enjoy what you do a lot more these days?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Yeah, I do enjoy it more, you know, 'cause I'm more at peace with it, and I have great people on the road with me, and I love it. You know, I've always loved music, and it's what I chose to do when we were starting out, and I'm at peace with it more so than before. I feel like I'm writing great songs. I'm very creative at the moment. I'm writing more songs, and I feel like for now it's beautiful, and I have good people in my life, and I'm learning, and I look up to people more, and like I want to remain as a student rather than a teacher, and yeah, you know, I'm very, very grateful to be here and playing in a beautiful venue in Amsterdam tonight, and yeah, I'm happy.
It's very good to hear.
Thank you, brother.
Benjamin, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.